Welcome back, everybody. This is the Yore podcast, episode 41. We're pretty sure. Super excited about this one. Going in, what's the word I'm looking for? Not blind. Going in, just going to read what Zach wrote. So shout out Zach, because he took the time to go ahead and write another episode. He said this one written for a little bit here, so super excited. I do know the intro, or what it's about, I guess, the information. And if you read the title, it's about the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. Not fellows who are odd, but the organization. Do you know anything about them?
I do not.
Ooh, educational and inspirational. It's going to be a good one. He wanted to do this one potentially for the New Year's with everything going on, and then we wrote the one for New Year's, so he said, do this one a little bit later. He's got some cool stories coming up for writing, so if anybody has anything that they think is a good story in a state potentially we haven't done or a state that we have done, feel free to let us know. But I'm super excited about this one, so you ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to read it just as he writes it. So sorry in advance for all the names and the big words that I can't say. And anytime it says, like it starts off, my grandparents were gamblers. It's his grandparents, not mine. So let's do the thing. My grandparents were gamblers. I told you it started off like that. But not the devious hobo sense, but in the pull tabs, scratchy lotteries, in bingo sense. And he loves his grandparents dearly and really enjoyed spending time with them. He also loves pickled eggs and French fries.
Good to know.
Well, maybe as a thank you, we'll send you some pickled eggs and French fries. Sorry to your wife, because to be honest, if you eat some pickled eggs, you're going to have some terrible gas. But that's what he put. And then he put, not the gas part. I made that up. I'm assuming. Let's not assume. That's why he would make regular trips with his grandparents to a large warehouse on the outskirts of town to play bingo, eat pickled eggs and French fries, and chuckle each time the announcer would say, "Doctor says it's cancer. Thankfully, it's benign. B9." Get it?
Got it.
Got it. I should have went. Oh, good one. Like this?
Yeah. I think I nailed it.
You nailed it better, I think. You try again? Yeah, yours is spot on. Well done.
All right.
Yeah, good job. We don't even need the soundboard. So, classic joke. And anyway, very obviously underage producer Zach hit the $1,000 jackpot one night on a 3-window white card with a red border. He had to fill in a Y on his card. Thankfully, you could use your free space on that one. I don't remember what I bought with it. Probably more pickled eggs.
I love bingo.
Do you?
I do.
It's kind of one of these things. And as we get older, you know, to the age where potentially we could maybe go and play bingo and enjoy it, because that's technically, other than producer Zach, what people who get a little bit older play. There's not a lot of bingo around here, is there?
There's more than you think. I used to go all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Around here, I mean, obviously where you live is a little bit different, but where I live, I think Morristown, New York, potentially has some bingo at a fire hall.
I was going to say, they're usually at fire halls or Elks clubs.
Mm-hmm. And this one, this one was a thing. I know that as a teenager, me and a group of guys, we would always go there kind of as a joke, but then we were like, you can actually win money playing bingo? And we would go there, but unfortunately we can't. And we'll get into the story here, because the warehouse was the lodge for a local chapter of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. At the time, he had no idea it was anything but a bingo hall, kind of like we just said. Mm-hmm. Up until a few weeks ago, there was no idea what it was until he started listening to another podcast which detailed how Oddfellow halls across the country were being sold as memberships dipped, and they were finding human remains in stage prop caskets tucked in attics and hidden under piles of garbage in back corners.
Well, that took a turn.
Woo!
Dun, dun, dun.
There it is. So, all right, I guess.
Wow.
And as Zach put here, he says, the good old days of the fraternity boom in the U.S. Anyway, reading this, that's me. It's Matt. Watching Matt read this and providing color commentary is Meg. And the man behind it all is me, producer Zach. And this is the Your Town podcast. And then this is where he says, put intro in. And then he says, $50. Says Matt didn't include the intro. Well, for $50, we're going to include the intro. I accept PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, or wholehearted cash. I will not accept pennies, dime. No, I will take them as well because we're living in 2024. We got Coinstars. So, producer Zach, fork it over. If he doesn't, I'll make sure to tell everybody on the social medias to get after him. All kidding aside. Appreciate you, Zach. And let's do the thing. You ready to get into this? I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, it's about the Independent Order of Oddfellows. I was thinking the same thing. A bingo hall. Ooh, what's cool about this? And then he started about this twisted little thing where they're finding bodies and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to go there.
I didn't either, and it's weird that I'm excited about it, but I feel like people saw me kind of perk up, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
I was thinking it was going to be like the Elks Clubs and all those places around where we live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the backstory of those.
Yeah.
It seems a little different.
Seems a lot bit different. So Let's do the thing. Long before producer Zach made his made thousands illegally gambling at his local Oddfellows Hall, the Independent Order of Oddfellows took root in its root, not route. We'll get into that later. In the 18th century England. At its inception, the order was mirrored in pseudo-political disputes. That's a weird word. They throw the P in there. It's silent. What? It's not needed. But either way, there's disputes and infighting amongst trade guilds. In fact, some historians claim the term Oddfellows has its origins in there not being an established trade guild for those who simply did odd jobs. There were guilds abound for masons, carpenters, textile workers, farmers, jewelry makers, etc. But for those who did not really do one set thing, there wasn't a real home for these people. Thus, rumor has it, these Oddfellows banded together to make a guild of their own. I think I would have been an Oddfellow. In my initial thing, like you said, with the Elks Lodge, there's still, and as Zach kind of said, the boom of all of these private clubs. And I always wonder, why is there so many? You have the Moose, you have the Oddfellows,
American Legion.
The American Legion.
That's the one I was thinking.
Elks. You could go on. And like I said, it's a dying thing. Being a guy that was a member of a Moose Lodge for years, just not a lot of time for me in membership going there. Maybe it's the age, maybe it's there, maybe there's just too much to do, and there wasn't as much back then. Me personally, I would go there for the cheap alcohol. You can go in there and be a member there and get $2 beers when you're going out to other places. And in our area, it's like $3.50, $4. You might be listening to it and be like, hold up. You're telling me you can go and have a beer for under $7? We get it. We're not a city. A little less going on here.
I was going to ask. This might be a dumb question, but is that something that's more like the North Country, or is that like statewide, like in other states? You know what I mean?
Like Moose Lodge and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's
Is that like all over, or is that just like an area?
Nope, it's all over. I know specifically the Moose Lodge because one thing that's really cool is obviously you go to the other ones. A lot of these guys would travel elsewhere, but there's even one in, I believe, Florida that is a Moose Lodge that is a resort. So if you're a Moose member, you could actually stay at this resort much cheaper, and you have to be a Moose member to stay there. So gotcha. It is throughout the country, which is a pretty cool thing, just like, I'm assuming, the Oddfellows. Interesting, right?
It is.
All right. So you get all of these Oddfellows band together, make their own guild and everything. Politics and a few civil conflicts in England wore thin the fraternal bonds, which were supposed to kind of hold the organization together. That's why by the later half of the century, the organization dropped all political and religious affiliations and began new as generalized fraternities of blue collar, dedicated to civil service and mutually prosperity amongst its members. The group eventually penned the motto, visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. It's a pretty good motto. Mm-hmm. At the peak, the organization acted as pension, health insurance, life insurance, subsidized housing for the sick, widowed, and elderly, and financial relief for impoverished. So you guys are all, oh, he can't say words. I'm sitting like 4 foot back trying to read little tiny font. I should figure this out. That's on me. That's just my excuse for not being able to read. Impoverished people in the communities in which a lodge existed. In America, the tradition carried on when the first chapter chapter. And the first chapter here, the old chap, and the first chapter was opened in New York City the day after Christmas. Happy Boxing Day, December 26, 1806, by London, England-born mechanics Solomon Chambers. That's a heck of a name, easy to say, and John C. Chambers, his son. So the father-son duo, along with a few others, grew the brand well early in the 19th century. New York City, the New York City area, by the end of 1809, there were 6 lodges spread across the city, servicing about 40 fellows, but the foundational lodge was dissolved during the War of 1812 for political and wartime reasons. The fraternal banner was later picked up by Thomas Widley in Baltimore. Yeah, not a big fan of the city of Baltimore because I'm a Pittsburgh fan and the Ravens. Anyways, and from that point on, the American Oddfellows grew to prominence, rivaling their European brethren. What are you thinking so far? Pretty good. Pretty good little history, little throwback, all right? The power and reach of the order was curbed dramatically in the post-World War II America. However, FDR's New Deal offered government-sponsored programs to the entire country. So where Oddfellow Halls would kind of then offer health and life insurance, job placement, and retirement planning as paid perks of lodge membership. The federal government began offering these social kind of safety nets as part of the new round of taxes put forth in FDR's New Deal legislation. With a generation of lodges across the country, they were shuttering and going up for sale. Everything cycles, and apparently it's cycling back. Spoiler alert. And that, dear listeners, is where the weird stuff comes in. All right, if you've made it this far through 11 minutes and 40 seconds potentially of it, we thank you. But this is where the weird stuff comes in.
Oh boy.
I'm ready for it. And Meg took a little sip of some wine to get ready for this weird stuff. So
I'll take one more.
All right, so you're gonna take one more, and I'm gonna have a cheers break. So, any of the listeners, if you're obviously driving, don't do this. If you're at your house, cheers to you, cheers to us. Let's have a quick little sip. And now we're back. As the 20th century marched on toward and into the 21st century, former Oddfellow lodges across the country went up for sale. As the new residents moved in, a handful made ghastly discoveries when they found dried human remains tucked away, hidden in these former lodges. Let's go to Virginia. 2001, an electrician was working on rewiring a former Oddfellows lodge when he found a small door to space between two brick walls. That's probably some kind of typo. No judgment. He found a small door between 2 bricks and this wall and everything. He opened the door.
I'm going to guess that it led to a space between 2 brick walls.
I like that guess.
Yeah.
He opens the door, Meg, and what does he find?
A black wooden box.
And inside, what did he find?
Partially mummified corpse.
It was draped in white linen cloth surrounded by used candles. Oof. That seems like some weird stuff. Interesting. Then in 2011 in Oregon, gonna skip that one. How would you say that? SCIO. Shoy.
I don't know.
It's Oregon. A 16-year-old girl found a child-sized casket caked in mud in an out-of-the-way closet in the town's former Oddfellows Lodge. Inside the casket, the girl found, obviously, adult femurs, a mandible, and teeth. What's a mandible?
A bone, I think.
Okay. Why didn't you just put a bone? Producer Zach. Big brain. Let's go to 2015 in Panama, Oklahoma. Not Panama, the country. Panama, Oklahoma. A family found a complete adult human skeleton in their rundown barn. Upon further investigation, the skeleton was not only confirmed to be legitimate human remains, but their origin was traced back to a former Oddfellows Lodge in another town or city I can't say in Oklahoma, Pateo. Meg's coming in with some breaking news and some research on what a mandible is.
I believe it's a jawbone.
Oh, that makes sense. A jawbone and some teeth.
Yeah.
Educational show. So we're back to Pateo, Oklahoma, where not 1, but 2 full adult skeletons were removed after the lodge folded in the 1960s. And the list goes on and on. So much that there's actually a collection of Oddfellow skeletons in the care of the Anthropology Department of the University of Western Ontario. To boot, this collection was donated by the Oddfellows themselves in 19 99, right before Y2K happened. And it's funny because well, maybe funny is not the right word, but we also did an entire episode about the remains of Jeff Davis and his skeleton. So make sure you guys head on over to yorktown.com or Spotify or anywhere else you get social media stuff, anywhere else you get podcast stuff, and give those a listen to. But there's a question. Why do they have these remains of the humans, you may ask? Well, I think we have an answer, Meg. It's simple. Well, also, not being so simple. The Oddfellows really hit their stride at the peak of the popularity for fraternal and secret societies. The social clubs prided themselves on holding near and dear not only a kind of resume of for stuff and humanitarian deeds and events by sacred rites, rituals, and traditions as well. And the Oddfellows were no exception. In the order to become an Oddfellow and have access to its healthcare, pension plans, and retirement communities, one would have to go through a kind of vetting and initiation process. And for whatever reason, those, along with the other rites and rituals sacred to the Oddfellows, included human remains. The Parcast Network's investigation into the organizations for their two-part series on the group revealed evidence that these human remains were acquired back in the day when medical students could simply order a sterilized skeleton for their own study. Whether or not that is the case for every Oddfellow Hall, it's still up for debate. Unfortunately, despite several conversations and some online digging, producer Zach could not find any evidence of a skeleton found in the walls of the Oddfellows Lodge in his hometown. But he does like to look back and imagine his $1,000 was kept in a box grasped tightly by a dusty old skeleton somewhere between the soda fountain. That's good. All words easy to say. In closing, next time you go through a small town, take a look around and see if there's, 3 interconnected circles denoting an Oddfellows Lodge that were advertised everywhere. It is still on the marquee when you pull up into Ogdensburg, New York, and maybe you can find an old coot in a diner who can show you a dead body buried under an old American flag and bags of unlucky pull tabs. Maybe. And if you do, take a picture and send it over to us on all of the socials. Ideally, an Oddfellows Lodge is a place kind of for fellowship in all of its form. Just kind of from hanging out and just having fun to discussion to networking to collaboration on creative and constructive projects. All with an eye not only on our own satisfaction, but on what we might offer to the community at large. An ideal lodge is a great venue for a lot of positive energy, and all members are encouraged to contribute their share. And that's from the group's official About Us page. Zach ends it with, bye. That's what he put. Bye.
Bye.
Wild story. So let me gather here. So what they're saying is there was weird rituals. There was all this stuff, but they're kind of saying, going with the, well, we bought them for potential decorations, for research, for medical students. They're going to play that card? You're thinking?
Sounds like it.
Wouldn't that be wild? I mean, if you find out that these Oddfellows, these places where, as a kid, you went there with your grandma playing pull tabs, was actually like doing human sacrifices in some of those clubs.
Right.
I mean, a club that's been around since the 1800s, there's been a lot of things that we see as weird and not right that wasn't always the case. I mean, there was probably some people that were like, it's not right, but there was also things people thought, witches. Maybe we'll do a show on the Salem witch trial and all that stuff. But different times, like a lot of the stuff that we do, technology has evolved, stories have evolved, and hopefully this podcast has evolved very well. What's kind of your conclusion? Like, do you have questions? Do you think it's weird? I mean, obviously it's a little bit weird, but I was not expecting this. And I've driven by. So where in our hometown the Oddfellows is, where there was like a whole bunch of buses. You're driving up 37 before you kind of hit the Chinese restaurant and stuff like that. There's that huge building on that corner by National Grid.
Okay, on the left.
Yeah, that's where the Oddfellows was.
Huh.
They used
I didn't know that.
Yeah, every once in a while they would have they would kind of open it up, and I think once or twice there would be some like high school bands. They take some money to go in there. Bingo. The place that I used to work before actually held an event there before. So I mean, I've spent some time in there. And I guess he dug around and they haven't found anything. And I'd have to imagine it then became a bus garage after they bought it. And I guess there's no skeletons in those closets. But maybe, just maybe, there's something in the walls.
Imagine being the owner and then being like, "Oh, they want me to check around. Let's see what we can find."
Yeah. Let's just go. Me and Zach we're going to go in there. And we're going to start tearing out some walls and see what we can find. So good episode. Thanks, Zach, for doing that. We should probably go over the sources. Oddfellows.org, Wikipedia. Love you, Wikipedia. Parcast Network Podcast, Secret Societies, Oddfellows Part 1 and 2. The AtlasObscura.com, 5newsonline.com, LATimes.com, and the Ontario Archaeology. Sorry, that was tough to see when you put it all together. And there, .org. Either way, thank you to our sources. Thank you to Zach for writing that. Thank you to
archaeology.
I don't know what came out of my mouth.
It's archaeology.
What did I didn't say it right.
Archaeology.
Shocker! I didn't say something right. But either way, for whatever reason, if you're continually listening to this, we appreciate it. We're going to be back next week, episode 42. Not exactly sure what we're going to talk about, but we have a lot of fantastic stories lined up. We would love some viewer suggestions, so please send them over to any of the social media so we can just give us a topic. And Zach's going to do the research. I know he's got a super busy February, so he's going to start really digging in and getting some episodes done. So can't thank you enough, Zach. And obviously, thanks, Meg, for joining us. Hopefully you had fun.
You're welcome.
All right, you got anything else?
No.
All right. Think we should get out of here?
Let's go.
Just because he said $50 we won't play the intro, I'm going to run this as an outro. Take care, everybody.
Bye.